I don't know when. So how does everybody sound, chat? Do we all sound good?
Apparently to Magnor we sound all weird and pitch shifted.
Nice.
He's been
Because
listening to
he's
the
been
archives on
listening, yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Oh, I did miss your bits. 5 bits for Magnor. That's how that works, right? Yeah, that is totally how that works.
I
Thank you,
think I
Will.
need. Have I said anything in a while? I think I should
You
probably
have
say
not.
something. This is me saying something. And this is me saying something in this voice.
And this has been this voice.
Oh my.
It's been interesting trying to read the books to Sam and trying to get different voices for different people. I don't think I could probably replicate the voice that I made for Smog without hurting my throat. Luckily, he doesn't have too many lines.
I can't wait till you get to Tom Bombadil.
No. What's the next part say, Dad? It says they left and went to the next place and met no one here. The end.
Go to bed.
That was one of the things I was thinking of when I said, well, at least some of the filler was that might actually be entertaining to kids, but I might be misremembering that too. It's total filler.
I mean, I liked Tom Bombadil when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Hobbit bathing scenes? Oh my. Anyway, so we should. I think the recording has been going long enough for it to actually kick in, so we should probably start an actual episode, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ow, jam. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I almost dove right into the Monday Night Magic intro. Outro? Throughput. Okay, let me try this again. I will actually cut that out. Ow, jam. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is episode 527, is that right?
That sounds about right.
Let's go to themanapool.com. The last episode was 526. Okay. Good lord. So, this is episode 527 of the Mana Pool. I am Chewy, and with me as always are some dorks. Hi, dorks.
Hi, Chewy. I'm Brian. I'm the lead rambler, tangent master of the group. And for today, I will be your greenest man here. Maybe? I don't know. Am I more green than Mike?
That's a tough one to call.
Yeah, I don't know.
You do love you some, like, Borborigma. So.
Yeah.
Oh, Pinball Witch pointed out, I don't know, green gets self-mill.
It does. Yeah, green does graveyard
Yeah.
stuff. And it has big creatures, so yeah. I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy and the game lore guy. And I guess today I'll be the moral astrolab of the group.
Nice. I can't actually be the moral compass because, I mean, obviously. So. But yeah, in case you can't tell, we are Sans Dirk, which is Latin for Dirks in Disney World, right? Is that?
Yes.
That's what that
think
means,
so.
right? But yeah, Dirk and the fam are down in Disney World, so we are Dirk-less. We don't have a small stabby thing that is. Dirks are smaller than daggers, right?
No, they're larger. I thought the
Oh.
blade was like they're shorter than a short sword. They're between a short sword and a dagger. Like the blade's about as long as your forearm, if I'm thinking of the right thing.
Oh.
Chad, correct me on my misunderstanding of medieval weaponry.
A dirk is slightly larger. Oh. Or dirk is simply a Scottish word for a dagger. Huh.
Oh.
So it depends on, and this is all in the top of the quote. I typed into Google Dirk versus Dagger, and those two things are both in the little quote that pops up at the top. So thanks, Quora.com. You are worthless. Wikipedia says it's a long thrusting dagger. There you go.
Yeah.
So we have no daggers today. Let's say. It could be a sword or the polearm. That's true. It's like the glaive. Yeah. That's one of the cards in the card image gallery we didn't talk about.
Oh.
Yeah, the what, glaive of the guilds or something like that.
Yeah.
Shows a sword instead of a glaive.
Oh, okay.
And not the one from Krull. I was like, what's the name of the damn movie? I loved that movie when I was a kid.
That's something else, yeah.
But anyway, that is still not what we're here to talk about tonight. Tonight, Mike had the idea, even though it's not exactly timely, except for those of you that are here live and you early release people.
Aha.
Well, Mike, what was your idea? Why am I doing all the
Okay.
talking? Say something.
Yeah.
Who are
So
you?
I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy.
Who are any of us, really? You know?
Um,
That's a deep question.
Gosh, I was trying to formulate a joke, but I had nothing, so now I'm just sitting here with a blank look on my face.
It's a shame we don't have face cams or people could see your blank look.
Yeah. So, I thought about just talking about the kind of things you need to know to prepare for going to an event. And we're assuming that we're talking to a person who either hasn't been to any events or hasn't been to a lot or has been to several but keeps having crummy, frustrating experiences, and maybe we could bring up something that'll make them go, oh, okay.
Or is perhaps, if I may interject, is perhaps going to a different type of tournament than they've ever been to before. We're not
Yes.
here to cover the Pro Tour because none of us really know anything about that. But say you've
Step one,
only,
get good.
but say you've only been to F&M and you want to go to your first pre-release, or the other way around, something like that. We are not here to tell you how to win because you're in the wrong place for that. We're here to help facilitate the process and think about things that have made a difference for us over the years as far as enjoying ourselves and maybe a little bit of strategy, but not this is what's good in the meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah. Like Chewy said, this won't be exactly timely for this upcoming pre-release since most people will be hearing this after that event is over. But it's nice to have, and I'm pretty certain it's been quite a long time since we talked about anything like this on the show, in depth for a whole episode.
Right.
Yeah. So we thought we would start with the pre-release because it's the smallest, most casual, most easygoing, less hassle.
Yep.
And then go from there into something like an F&M, into something like a PPTQ, into something like a GP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that sound? Sounds good?
That sounds good. Before even we start with that, I think there are a couple basics that we would need to cover. And I think the most basic, and this is not a personal dig at Brian, but
I'm going to take it as a personal dig at Brian just because it's funnier that way.
I'm going to shovel. It's okay.
The first thing you need to know what kind of event you're going to.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And that covers a lot of things. Most importantly, the format, because it is important whether to know that you'll be able to just show up and open product and play with that stuff, or whether you need to build a deck beforehand, or whether you need to build a standard deck or a modern deck or a legacy deck or what have you. That's crucial. That's critical. Otherwise, you're going to show up and there's going to be some fundamental issue that might mean you just can't join the event.
Right. I feel like we need to give the a little bit of context.
Give the context here. Yeah.
Yeah. So not even Magic, but I've been dabbling a little bit in the Final Fantasy trading card game that's been going for a little bit, and I read an announcement that there was going to be a tournament at a local game store. The store that sold it doesn't have a playing space, and they were partnering with another local store that has a playing space. The way I read the announcement was that it would be a sealed event. I spoke to these guys, and Mike was going to go, and even Dirk was going to go. I was like, this is going to be great. It's sweet. We're going to get there. And we got there, and I'm like, so blah, 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 blah. And it turned out it was a constructed tournament. And when you look at the announcement, it had the word constructed, but it also mentioned like X number of booster packs. And I thought maybe they're just
X
using
packs
the
per person. Mm-hmm.
And my thought was, oh, well, they're using the term constructed, but maybe that means something. Having never gone to a tournament for this game before, maybe they're using it in a way that doesn't mean exactly what I think it means. So luckily we figured it out right as money was about to be exchanged, because none of us had a deck to play. I had like a couple intro packs, and
yeah, the precons you had gotten at Walmart.
Yeah. So
that's totally fine for a tournament, right?
We could have given it a shot, but Mike decided, well, he could still go see a movie, and Dirk and I played a quick game and said, all right, we have families and other things we can go do. But so that's where that comes from. And that is a perfect example of, even though it's not Magic, of make sure you know what the format is, because you don't want to show up. The biggest thing is not having a deck when you need to have a deck. It's a little easier to kind of go the other way, but nonetheless, you also don't want to spend X amount of dollars on a standard deck and show up if it's a modern tournament. Even if technically your deck is legal, it's probably not ideal. So, yeah. Yep. Know the type of tournament that you're getting into. It probably also wouldn't hurt in general, while not everyone is going to know this ahead of time, to have some sense of what your time commitment is, because some tournaments are going to be a couple hours. You're probably not going to find one that's less than 3 or 4 hours, unless you go in and bomb right away and need to leave right away. But there's a difference between a couple hours and an all day, or when we get to GPs, possibly multi-day event. So again, you're not going to necessarily know that at the outset, but if there's a way to tell, you should probably try and find that out.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to push a tournament to 5, 6, 7+ hours, depending on how many people show up and what the format is like, whether it's fast or slow.
Yeah. And there are other places that have, like, especially for pre-releases, a set number of rounds regardless of how many people come. So maybe you want to know that too. So, yep. Know what kind of format it is and have some sense of how long you're going to be there, because nobody wants to go. I mean, things come up. I went to the Dragon's Maze pre-release, and I got a call after an hour saying, hey, your daughter's throwing up. And I'm like, everything okay? And she's like, I think I got it handled. And then like half an hour later, another call, yeah, you need to come home.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And then Carrie was throwing up. Yeah. So I had enough time to beat somebody in the first round and say, nice, gotta go, which wasn't great for me. Wasn't great for my opponent, because I basically gave him a loss and then ducked out. Feel a little bit like a jerk like that. I didn't know it at the time, but it happened. And so things happen, but still, you don't want to go thinking you're going to be there for 2 hours and realize that if you're hoping to do well, you're looking at 6 or 7 hours, because you're not going to have a good time. A lot of the advice today is, again, not about how you win, but making sure you have a good time.
Yeah. If you want to know how to win, clearly you're listening to the wrong podcast.
There are literally about like 50 others that will tell you that.
But now for some, and that time commitment thing is important. Like, there's nothing worse than going to a pre-release expecting the standard, hour to build or however long build time is. I don't even remember these days. And then 4 rounds, and then you go home and have plenty of time to get stuff done. To hear them announce, all right, it's going to be 7 rounds. And you're like, what the?
Yeah.
Well, it cuts top 8. There are certain places where they'll cut to top 8 for anything.
There are certain places.
Yeah. Gaming Underground here locally will cut to top 8 if there's only 4 people. Like, it's ridiculous.
I joke. I like the guys that run Gaming Underground. I do. But I joke that they would do a top 8 for a draft if they could. So, and that it's good to know that ahead of time. Again, we're not saying like you have to do all the research in the world, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And on a related note, while we're still on general topics that apply to all tournaments, know where you're going. It may sound very like basic, especially in the world we live in now with GPS and all that, but really this goes back to timing and making sure what your commitment is. It's going to make a difference whether you're going to your local game store that's a half an hour away or 20 minutes away, or going to a place that's 2 hours away or more. I went to I think it was a Star City event in Charlotte, and I got there and I thought I was going to have plenty of time, but I got there and I had to park in this outside parking deck, and it's outside parking lot. And it's one where you literally like pulled in a spot, got a ticket for your spot number, and then you had to go ahead and pay, and there was a line to pay. And by the time I got inside, I had like 10 minutes to grab a registration sheet and get my deck down. So I'm always a big fan of getting places early. I know some people, they don't work that way. That's fine.
Hi.
It bothers me. Yeah, it bothers me. We had a saying in marching band. I think it got drilled into me. To be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late. And I think that suited me pretty well. And it bothers me if I'm not early for things. And that was something where, like, I was glad that I had made a point of trying to get there early, because if I had tried to even get cut a little closer, I would have driven an hour and a half from where I was then. I'm closer to Charlotte now, but I would have driven an hour and a half then for nothing, to turn around and go, oh, wow, yay. And I think that was one where nobody else could go. I think it was just me. And maybe Bill. There was one time I went to where it was literally just me and Bill. None of the other guys could go.
I remember a previous sealed PTQ, like the last one, the one that Bill made top 4, actually. Mm-hmm. If you'll recall, Bill showed up like minutes before that started. Because it was at Gaming Underground, right? No, it was at Lucky's, but it was next door.
Yeah, in the next door space. Before that barber school or whatever it is.
Okay, wait, no, the one that we went to at Gaming Underground a long time ago was the one that Bill showed up right before it started. Like literally right before it, like he walked in the door and they're like, all right, pairing or take your seats, and he's like, I need to register, and because he got lost on the way, because that's Bill's MO, is to get lost on the way. The one that was at Lucky's, he intentionally left way early because he knew he'd get lost, and he showed up only one way early, like because he got turned around at some point.
And that's an issue for some people. And I mentioned, it's less of an issue with GPS and all that, but it's still possible, especially since not all, if you're going to a local tournament, some of these local game stores are, shall I put it charitably, a hole in the wall. And that could be any business, but, especially for a smaller, usually, family-owned business, it's not going to be like, have a giant 50-foot sign at the road. It's not going to be the top floor of the Ritz-Carlton. It's going to be in a shopping center with probably 4 or 5 other things at least. So have a good idea of where you're going.
Yeah, I used to always mess up going to Gaming Underground because I would get to that intersection with, I think it was Business 85 and 311 or something like that. And I'd say, here I go. And I go one way, and it's like 3 miles before the next opportunity you get to turn around. And I'm just cussing the entire way.
He'll get on 85 south I remember that because I was like, "Where are you at, man?" Because he was going to go to a draft with me, and I was trying to tell the owner that he's on the way. And Mike's like, "I just passed this," and I'm like, "Also keep in mind I'm the worst guy with directions, so I'm like, hold on." I call Carrie, and I'm like, "He's at this," and she's like, "He's going." And the nearest exit is not close, and it's to like another highway. So yeah. Yay! So, what have we learned? Know the format, have some sense of a time commitment, and know where you're going. If you're invested in the game, hopefully you've got not that you're rich, but uh, you're willing to spend a little bit of money on the game. But it probably wouldn't hurt to know how much you're willing to put in. And again, this will come in a little more in GPs because GPs, first of all, are expensive. They've gotten to be more expensive, and second of all, there are a ton of side events. But you might want to know: am I going in and spending $30 plus maybe like $5 for sleeves, or am I going in thinking I've got like $90, or do I have to borrow $5 from Chewy? No, can I borrow $5?
I very rarely carry cash, so probably not.
Oh, and there are some stores that still only take cash for some events. So, yeah. Any other general advice? Just I'm sure if we think of something else, we'll bring it up as it comes up. But
I think we hit the important ones.
okay. So I feel like I'm on the cover of that "What to Expect When You're Expecting" book. So you're thinking about going to a pre-release. Be safe. No. Congratulations. Pre-releases are, huh?
Nothing. Just keep going.
Oh, I'm too distracted now. Pre-releases are awesome. I mean, have you ever met anyone that said that pre-releases aren't awesome? You might have a pre-release where you're like, wow, I can't believe this and this happened, and then my car was stolen, and my sister's uncle's brother's friend died. But otherwise, in general, pre-releases are awesome.
Yeah, they used to be like the only tournament I would ever go to. Because you get to play with new cards, and everyone's mostly on the same level in terms of experience with the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And you get new cards, and it's great.
I think that's one of the reasons that I am drawn to sealed events in particular. While they're not always necessarily the new set, but that does tend to be the hotness. It's more that everyone starts on a relatively equal level. Now, of course, there's always the couple guys that got 3 playable mythics, and all the color fixing, which will be very important for this weekend. Versus the one guy that all his pool is just a pile of stuff. That happens, but generally speaking, it's you don't have to worry about how much have I invested so far. All you really need to bring is a working knowledge of the rules, and you need to be able to look at the cards, figure out which ones you want to play, and see how well they do. So, and as Mike said, it is really interesting to go in there with a new set before anyone's been able to buy it, and before anyone has quote unquote solved the format and said this is absolutely. I mean, I'm sure limited race resources and others have already said these are the best picks, but really, just open your packs and see what you get and have a good time, right? It's awesome. That's why I love Seal, love pre-release. As far as what you need to know going into a pre-release, I would say as far as information about the set, some people have different opinions about this. Some people want to say, I want to know as little as possible. This is always, it's gotten trickier with this because there used to actually literally be a time where you could walk in and not know anything. And it's so hard to do that now because all that information is
everywhere.
Front center. Yeah. I mean, it used to be that literally the whole set would not even be previewed before the pre-release, which was kind of cool, but different times, nostalgia, get off my lawn, that kind of thing. We'll keep going. but kind of I would say at least have a sense of the themes of the set. If you don't want to know every card in the set, that's fine. I think that's admirable. I prefer to be that way a little bit, although it's tough because we do previews. But you don't want to be walking in and going, wow, literally a third of my cards have mentor. I don't get how this mechanic works.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
Knowing the new mechanics for the set is really important.
Yeah.
Because I remember some pre-releases way back in the day that we went to where someone just had a misunderstanding of something, and none of their opponents corrected them or helped them out, and it was a real drag on how they were able to do. I can't remember if it was me or someone else who didn't realize that Scry let you put the cards on the bottom after you looked at them.
Wow.
If you didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for Onslaught, my brother was paying the morph costs backwards, basically. Essentially he would pay the 6 or whatever amount it was to put his Krosan Colossus down face down, and then 3 to turn it up. And no one was correcting him.
Whoops.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for the subscription. My name is 14. See, I told you could just hit the share button and it would pop up during the show. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
3 months in a row. Sick.
Nice.
Yeah,
and my name was 14.
There, I've got the movie I Am Number 4 on my Netflix list. Does that make a difference?
Maybe it's a crossover between I Am Number 4 and like the androids from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Right. So having a handle on the new mechanics, that's really like the bare minimum, right? Like understand how the things work. And I guess if there's anything special about your pre-release in particular, like for instance, for the Guilds of Ravnica one, you have to pick a guild and you get a seeded booster. Right. Single booster that is seeded with those cards from that guild.
Right.
Like, that's the sort of thing that if you didn't know, go pick a guild. For what? Like...
Yeah. Not sure which one I'm going to pick, but that's, I'm thinking maybe Boros.
Yeah, I'll probably just pick whatever's left, because,
But no, that's a good point, because it may be that's the sort of thing where you do want to think about that. When I say know the mechanics, this is going to be different for different people. I think if it all depends on your expectation. If you want to get a little more serious about it, but you still want to have some mystery to the set, maybe look at the spoiler without look at the card image gallery without looking at everything. You probably want to look at combat tricks and removal, because especially at common and uncommon, because that's going to kind of tell you, okay, they've left up 3 mana and 2 of it's black. It's probably going to be blah. But what I'm talking about may already be a bridge too far for some people who just want to go and have a good time, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying you have to be hyper competitive. The whole point of a pre-release is to have a good time. But there will be people that want to try and do as well as they can. So it's kind of a set your expectations kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, no one goes in going, you know what? I'm looking forward to losing, but
that's true.
There's still the difference in mindset. Like,
yes.
Did you know? Would you like to know more? No.
Starship Troopers was underrated.
Right? There's it wasn't a good movie, but it wasn't a bad movie.
No, it was bad. It was bad.
Anyway, there's on Magic Online, for instance, you can play with in a Guilds of Ravnica pre-release event right now.
Mm-hmm.
It started at 10 a.m. today instead of 10 a.m. tomorrow. And in a random conversation that we were having, Bill goes, well, now that makes me want to go to a pre-release even less. I'm like, why? He's like, well, because there will be people that have 2 days worth of experience with it, whereas I don't have any. I'm like, aren't you missing the point of the pre-release? And then throughout later conversation, it turns out most of the time when Bill goes to a pre-release, it's to a place where the top prize is a box.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe not most of the time, but that's where he has been many times. And that's sort of warped his perspective of like what a pre-release is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember he used to go to Toy Factory a lot for stuff, but I guess not anymore because I don't think John has a price structure like that.
I think the last couple of times he went, it was to the Toy Factory.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because he used to go to places where that was the case. I'm like, oh, that's awful.
And that's
because Toy Factory usually has a pretty chill price structure.
Yeah.
And that's again gonna shape some of your expectation. I guess that's another thing is, what is your expectation for going to this tournament? And hopefully you want to do well. Like Chewy said, nobody wants to go and lose, but if I'm going to a GP and I am prepared to lose if necessary and do some side events while Mike is kicking butt, then that's fine. Or is it, what are you hoping to get out of it? Are you just basically, there are times, for example, you might go to F&M strictly to see how well your deck is going to do for something else. So what are you going for?
Yeah. And then there's like the people are bringing up in chat and expounding on what I just said with the real spiky prize payout. If you're lucky enough to live in a place where there are multiple card shops around, maybe find out how their prize structure works. Because if there's a place like our Gaming Underground locally here where they have like a number of rounds based on how many people are playing, so they can go 5-6 rounds and then it cut to top 8, I refuse to go there for that purpose. But people are saying in the chat, like Jars said, all pre-releases here are 4 rounds, 1 pack per win. That sounds amazing because there's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just go to play and, try to do your best and have fun. And it's not like, man, if I'd have won one more round, I'd have gotten like 10 more packs. I hate that feeling.
It's kind of for me, it's kind of a mixed thing. I agree that I don't want any more pressure than necessary. Every now and then, this feeling. You have drafted the perfect deck. You feel like you are on top of the world, and you kind of want a little extra just in recognition of that, just to go, look at this. I did amazing, and I got a little something extra to go with it. Sometimes you want to, you feel like maybe it's worth a little more than that one extra pack, but that everyone's also been on the other side too, where you're like, wow, I managed to make this pile actually win 2 rounds. I get 2 packs. I'm good with that, So it can definitely be subjective. I don't know that I would say that any one structure is necessarily better or worse than any other one, but I agree with Chewy. Knowing that is good, because if you're going in thinking, man, I want a shot at a box, I want a shot at 16 packs, and you find out it's going to be a booster and then 1 more per win, you're going to be like, and vice versa. If you're thinking, oh, you go in, have a good time, and then everybody is like on the edge, seeing all the lines and trying to like being really cutthroat, you're not going to have a good time there either. And I'm not trying to say that going for boxes makes everyone an asshole, but
I mean, it does attract a more competitive crowd.
Yes.
Not necessarily a bunch of jerks, but a more competitive crowd, whereas a more flat... Now, this is just for pre-releases. I believe, personally, all pre-releases should have flat payouts.
Yeah.
Because pre-releases are there to have fun, play with the new cards, and attract new people. Someone in Gloppy Rocks in our Discord server actually said earlier today, this is going to be my first pre-release ever. And I was like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Ooh, nice.
And it's a shame she's not actually here. I was like, oh, you should be sure you listen to the next episode. Or you come to the stream tonight, but she's not here. So, oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah. So, I think this all goes back to the kind of overarching theme of kind of know what you're getting yourself into to a certain extent, as much as you can.
Now, what else do you need to know about what else do you need to prep for a pre-release?
For a pre-release, because they are all sealed, some people really don't function. This sounds basic, but I'm serious here. Some people really don't function very well without sleeves. They get nervous if they feel like there's even a possibility they'll open something worth some money and they don't want it to be damaged. I know some people feel like they shuffle better with sleeves. You know what I'm talking about? And other people feel like it's unnecessary. You don't want to get there, and I mean, there's no problem with supporting the local store. If you want to get sleeves while you're there, that's fine. That's great. But you don't want to be like trying to buy them as the tournament is starting. It's one of these little things, and it's not going to make or break your day. But what other stuff do you need? And for sealed tournaments, that list is usually fairly minimal, but I would say sleeves and then something for tokens is usually pretty good, depending on the format. But when's the last time they printed a Magic set that didn't have some kind of token theme in some respect? You know.
Well, yeah, there's always token creators in every set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something does something.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like it's actually probably gone up over the last couple of years simply because tokens are a great way to convey what the themes and tribes of a set are without having to necessarily print more cards. When you see 12 cards that all make vampire tokens, then you're like, oh, I get it.
Mm.
Crabs. Wait, no, vampires. So, you know, it would be a good idea to have sleeves, and it'd be a good idea to have something, be it dice. You don't have to nobody's going to have like full packs of the official tokens yet, but have dice or have, you know, figures or pieces of paper or something to account for that, and or counters, you know, like +1, +1, last one, last one. I think if you have that, and you've got a way to keep track of your life total, you're probably good. But what other like?
Always recommend pen and paper for life total.
Yes.
Yeah, just easier to keep track of.
Yeah,
Yep.
because if you're I mean, even if you're just, you know, the most superest of casual player, if you're sitting at 7 and your opponent has 6 power on the board, and this happens, whoops, oh no, what were you at? That's the sound of like the table getting jostled and your life dice moving. Well, now there's a problem.
Yeah.
So
And-
I always recommend pen and paper. Lots of people are using like the various life apps on
and-
phones.
yeah.
I don't use any of those because I'm old school. If those are reliable, then go for that. Boogie boards are another thing that I see all the time at around here.
I'm a big fan of pen and paper simply because if something gets missed or if you don't agree, it's a lot easier to compare and say, I went 1918. Oh, I didn't record whatever, you know.
Yeah, that one trample that got through, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But then that might be me being a little more like established in my Magic playing.
Well, no, I think that's as long as you have a way to keep track of it, that's the important thing. The rules don't specifically state that it has to be any particular thing, but you know,
Yeah.
it falls under the be prepared thing, and you don't want to be going to your neighbors every round. Hey, can I borrow some paper? Can I borrow a die? Can I borrow a token? Can I, you know, because after a while that's just going to get cumbersome, and you're also going to eventually run into a situation where you may not be able to bum what you need, and that's awkward.
There is that, yeah.
Yeah.
I have felt terrible at pre-releases every once in a while because I have to lean over to people, hey man, mind if I borrow some dice for this game? And, you know, most people there know me or someone nearby knows me, so it's fine. But we're talking about people going to, like, their first event.
Yeah.
Having to be like, hey, random stranger, can I borrow some stuff every round? That's a little weird.
Yeah. And it puts more pressure on you to have to look for it instead of just having it with you from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, but again, so sleeves, I think just having a big thing of dice like what Mike's got, where he's got like a big box of dice, is so handy because you can use it for a million different things. But whatever you, and not to mention, dice are great for trying to figure out who's going to go first. They're so very efficient, let's say. But some way to keep track of some stuff. And have us as let's talk about what not to bring. Are you going to be trading? Great, have your stuff, but you probably don't want to be hauling 4 bags around with you every round, especially since you're going to be playing. And then who knows, you may have just a couple minutes between rounds if your round goes a little long or whatever. You may not want to bring all of your stuff. Are you planning to get there early and play a commander game? Great. Are you not? Then maybe you don't need your 5 boxes of decks, that sort of thing. You don't necessarily need to bring your entire collection. That being said, if this pre-release is your chance to get some trades in, make sure you've got it ready to go. Just make sure it's in such a way that you can store it between rounds.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that scales up importantly. Just going to a store like an F&M or a pre-release or something, having a big ass trade bag is not the worst. Going to a GP, Mike, it is. So...
I did. I feel so stupid about that. I still do about that last big, what was it? The gate crash sealed GP in Charlotte. Was that what it was?
I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, it was the sealed
I still
GP.
feel so stupid that I was carrying my big bag around the entire weekend. That was just a bad call. That was just dumb.
I might have just broken something.
And see right there, if we've just saved someone from making Mike's mistake, then it's all worth it. No, I'm not trying to pick on Mike, at least not directly.
I used to carry that big bag around with me to every single event. But finally, I learned my lesson. And nowadays, there are some times where I only show up with, pen, paper, dice, and entry money.
Yep. And so again, it all comes back to kind of knowing what you're getting into. So, and knowing here's something else. Know the venue, and this is, as Chewy said, this actually scales up. If you're talking about your local game store, have a sense of where you're going to park. Can I get to and from my car between rounds? Is that a problem? Is there food around, which I feel like should be its own category?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But
in addition to making sure you know when your event starts, make sure you know when your event ends. Not just for the purposes of time management that we were talking about before, but because if it starts at 2 o'clock and let's say you had lunch at noon, the event doesn't start till 2, and it's going to end up being a total of 5 hours. Are you the type of person who's going to get pissed off at 7 o'clock when you haven't had dinner? If so, plan around that.
Yeah. Jay Barlow brought up earlier in chat stuff about snacks and water and whatnot. Because, it might be a major pain to go get something to eat. There might be stuff to eat there, but it's not things you actually want or should get, just for your own well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
don't
know what food is.
Don't be bringing food into your local card shop. I understand people say snacks and drinks. Don't do that. Because they probably sell food, and it's one of the few things that they have, low overhead on. So.
Yeah, that's true. If you were going to bring in, a little bag of chips and a Mountain Dew anyway, just buy it from the shop.
Yeah, or go out, leave it in your car and go out there and eat it. Don't disrespect your local game store. They've got it rough as it is.
Yeah.
Support your local game store. But as I was saying, this does scale up a bit, not just in the terms of knowing what food is around, although that's important. When you go to a larger event, like a GP, it's probably going to be at something like a convention center. Know where it is. And the larger the event, thinking back to your car, thinking back to Mike hauling his stuff around, the less trips you're going to be able to make between where you're staying or where you're parked and the event. And hauling your big bag around for a round or two, if you want to get some trading in, if you want to do whatever, not a big deal. But you don't want to be doing it all day. How how much of a pain is it going to be to get your stuff to and from? So,
Yeah.
in the sense of knowing where you're going, once you are there, know where you are going within that place.
Yeah, like at the convention center in Charlotte, there are 2 or 3 food places just right over there inside the
Yep.
convention center. There's a Bojangles and a little sandwich
Little
place and
pizza
that other
place
little
and-
pizza place
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
But
And sometimes people might bring little carts or stands into the event space.
yeah, there was that going on at the GP in Jersey we went to, if I remember correctly.
And the one in Orlando that Brian and I went to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
then sometimes I remember like the convention center in Durham where they used to have the big pre-releases.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember if there was food inside the convention center that was open. I know it's there, but I don't remember ever going there. We always used to walk our asses down to like Mickey D's.
Yeah, because McDonald's was right over there, so we would just walk over there. And some people would just order pizza and have the Domino's guy walk in and give them a call, and they'd grab it. But
So yeah, just be aware that now again, this is the sort of thing that's going to scale up, and we're still technically on pre-releases, but still,
Yep. But
most of this advice applies to everything and scales up in size.
Yes. So getting back to the pre-release, know where you're going, have a sense of what stuff you want to have, like the sleeves and that sort of, and should you bring snacks? Do they have snacks? That sort of stuff. And especially for produce, if it's one of your first ones, are you going with anyone else? This sounds again like such a small thing, but there's nothing stopping you from going on your own, especially if you don't know anyone else locally. Go meet some people with similar interests, have a great time. But if there is someone you play with, I would highly suggest you try and go together, because you can always entertain each other between rounds and, get lost on the way together. That's always great. We've all been there before, right? So, but have a sense of who will be there, or at least, you're not going to know everybody, but see if there's anybody there that you are going to know and try and coordinate. Also helps if at least one of you knows when it starts. So, is there really anything else to pre-release? Because they're sealed, so much of it is, you think on your feet.
Yeah, the other tips just get into like deck building and
I was gonna say, I guess have an idea. Have an idea of how to build a sealed deck, but Okay.
Between 16 and 18 land. Okay, go. Oh, I guess one other thing. While we're still talking about either pre-releases or at least small events, have a sense of who is running and or judging the event. In the circumstance where during the event you have a rules question, even at a relaxed event like a pre-release, you shouldn't always have to go to your opponent and say, okay, how does this work? Because even if they're the nicest person in the world and they're just there to have fun, they may not be accurate. Or your understanding together may not be especially reflective of the rules, especially with a new set, hence pre-releases. Have a sense of, is it the store owner that's acting as a judge? Obviously, at higher level events, there will actually be a designated judge, and they'll introduce themselves, but kind of get a sense of where they're at. How do you call for them? How do you ask questions? So.
And at pre-releases and FNMs, it might be someone playing in the event. A judge is allowed to play in pre-release or an FNM that they're judging. So
know how to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to figure out, on a related note, be able to figure out how much time is left in round. Because that's always good. Thinking about, do I have enough time to go get food? How long is the line for the bathroom? That sort of thing. It's always helpful to know, hey, there's still 30 minutes left in the round. I lost really fast. Cool.
I have said that exact sentence before, followed by, hey, guys, I'm going to run get such and such to eat. Do you want anything? Hurry up. I got to go.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you do go off-site for something like that when there's a bunch of time left in the round, go ahead and tell a judge or the tournament official that you're doing it so that they know. And then they're supposed to give you leniency, even if the next round has started by the time you get back. If it started before the previous round was originally scheduled to end, they're supposed to give you some leniency there.
Right.
Yeah, so, like, hey, Lucky, I'm going to run to Wendy's. I'll be right back. Hey, you want anything? All right, I'll be back. You know, something like that.
Yeah, and then if the round turns over 10 minutes early and you get back after people have sat down, he'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll give you an extension.
Okay, so
for those of you who haven't been to a pre-release before and have heard us talking about all this, you'll sitting there being like, oh, God, how am I supposed to remember all this stuff? Keep in mind that we've covered a lot of general advice that's come to mind while we've been thinking about this.
Right.
Just general tournament life advice. So this isn't all, you need to know this for pre-release. It's just keep this in mind.
Okay, so let's recap what you need to know for pre-release. Where it is, when it is.
When it is.
How to get there.
Well, that falls under where it is.
What is the time? What is the time structure, and what is your time commitment for this day?
Okay, so what it is, where it is, when it is, how long it's going to take, and basically know your mechanics from the new set.
Yeah.
And then there's always going to be the have pen, paper, dice, and sleeves if you want.
Yeah.
That's really everything. We're just getting into more specifics about, like, the time commitment. Like, hey, are you going to be hungry? Go get food if you have time, and then here's what you have to do for all that. Like, none of this is meant to overwhelm you. This is all just us as we think of things. We blurt them out.
Yes, we're very free form that way. So, but there's not a test at the end. You're not going to be disadvantaged if you don't remember point 32B that we made. You know, these are things that we have observed over our many years of doing this. I've been playing with these guys since 2003.
Oh,
and
God.
Yikes.
people usually take a break in Magic, and we've never. I mean, you guys I know Chewy took a break before college and kind of came back to it. I've been playing more or less consistently, maybe not like all the time, but I haven't really stopped playing since we've started. So this is not to say that we're experts or that we know more, but we've picked up on a thing or two. These are based on our personal experiences.
Yeah, if you hear us say something like, be sure you know where it is, that's because, well, Mike got lost once and Bill got lost once. And if you say, be sure you know...
Brian didn't know the format.
Or Brian didn't know the format. Or, be sure you know where the food is. Because these are all things that have affected us personally.
Yes.
Yep.
So we want to try to spare anyone listening.
And while I keep feeling like I'm saying, this sounds really basic, but these are all things that someone could overlook. So, and it kind of sucks when you do.
Yeah, make sure you have enough money left for food. I remember those guys that were selling a bunch of like cheap alliances packs, and people were going nuts over them. And I'm like, oh boy! And then when I realized that, man, I'm hungry, I had like $1.50 left. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Hey, Mike, you can sell me your Force of Wills, and then you'll have some money. Force of Will for a pretzel, maybe? Seems about right.
That's fair, yeah.
What are you going to do, go hungry?
A big pretzel with mustard?
Nope.
No.
That's going to be a hard sell.
Not if you're hungry enough.
Excuse me. Okay, so how about the next step up, F&Ms?
F&M, or Friday Night Magic. Your quintessential beginner's step into slightly more competitive Magic. I think that F&M is probably one of the most, I want to say divisive formats, but I don't mean divisive like American politics divisive. I mean more in the sense of people really having different expectations. We've talked about different people
and
having
experiences.
Yes. We've talked about people having different expectations as far as pre-releases, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's still a pre-release. And I think everybody kind of gets that. But some people view a Friday Night Magic as just purely it's here for beginners. You really shouldn't come if you're over a certain skill level or you've been playing for a certain amount of time, or it's not meant to be competitive. And other people feel like it's a competitive tournament. It's a place for me to either craft my deck for a bigger tournament, or it's where I want to go and I want to show how good I am, show how much I have learned about this game over the X months, years, and no holds barred, and all flavors, all shades in the middle. So I think a lot of it depends on your local community and what is. We've talked a little bit about expectation. What is the expectation for the environment? You know, what go, Mike? You sound like you had something to say there. So,
I think I was just making noise. I was stretching my neck.
oh,
Mike's like, Brian's like, you said you. What was that? What?
What, did I say something? But yes, people have very different expectations and experiences at Friday Night Magic. Sometimes it varies from place to place. Like you might know, okay, at this shop, people are cool and casual, and at this shop, people are super serious. Sometimes it can vary within the same event. Like I know during, for a pretty long span of time at Lucky's, you could see large groups of both types of players in the standard FNM Magic every single week.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the group of people who were playing whatever and having fun most of the time, and you know, there's another group of people who always brought more serious decks and usually did better, but we all had our fun, and the events themselves were big enough that that you got to play with enough of the same type of person that you were, that you had a really good time. But yeah, it can be very different. So that's another one where it helps to get a feel for the place you're going to.
yes.
And what the events are probably like, and the way the people there are most of the time, to understand what kind of event you're actually going to be playing in once you sign up. Because a mismatch between expectations and reality is one of the surest ways to have a bad time.
Yes. Absolutely.
You just get disappointed and frustrated.
Yeah. Either you're going in expecting a more competitive format, and maybe you don't appreciate that other people aren't taking this in theory as seriously as you are. You're playing a deck that you have seen online that has done well before. You really want to see what it's doing against the meta, and all you have played against is
A bunch of Mike decks.
Is a bunch of Mike decks.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful to you. That it's not. And other way, you know, you just want to go. You want to hang out with some of the people you've seen before. Maybe meet one or two new people and try your Mike deck out, for God's sake. You know,
I have played against people who I could tell they were legitimately annoyed by the fact they were playing against a Mike deck instead of a real one.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Yeah. So and don't take from this that we are advocating one or the other. Because
oh yeah, we're not.
It all depends on what are you going in for. Think of it this way. Everyone has different expectations for Magic in general. What do you want to do when you sit down to play a game of kitchen Magic? Do you want to see your nifty combo go off for the first time and then disassemble the deck? Or do you want to go off for the 50th time and go, mwahaha? Do you want to play as many on-theme creatures as possible because you really love cats? Or do you want to play as many planeswalkers as you can because you think they're really cool? Is every card in your deck have some picture or side profile of Tezzeret because, oh my god, you know, what are you playing to try and show again how good you are? Is this the way you wind down after a hard day of work? There is no one answer. There are a multitude. So take that same attitude and apply it toward F&M. Know the format. because some F&Ms, I think the majority are probably still standard, but a lot of them can be modern as well. You don't see as many sealed because that's more of an ongoing. There's more expenses related to that.
But there are some places where that's popular. Like I'm pretty sure there's almost always a draft at FNM at the Toy Factory.
Okay, well, drafts. When I say seal, I was thinking more.
You mean sealed? Okay, got it.
But draft is its own. Let me draft every day. If I could do a draft every day, I'd be a happy Brian. But
if you go into an F&M with a standard deck and they're like, all right, draft begins in whatever time, you're going to be like, what?
Or modern,
And if you go in like, all right, going to go in and do a draft, and they're like, oh yeah, we're doing standard this week, you're like, piss.
Yeah.
So it is very important to know what you're going for.
Yes. I have often gone to an F&M strictly to draft, even knowing that it's standard, because they'll start signups, and I have to know, all right, is there a group of people that usually the 8 people the draft fills up fairly quickly, or am I going to have to wait for 2 rounds for people to start dropping out and we'll get started, or is it literally wait through all of F&M? And if it's going to be one of the latter two, do I want to bring a standard deck, give it a shot? F&M, a lot of places, is free, but some stores do charge. Kind of nice to know that ahead of time, so find that out. As well, price structure may or may not matter to you, but I think it's a little more important to know, hey, do I have to bring along $5, $10, whatever?
Yeah.
So,
like Top Deck in Kernersville, they used to have F&M with an entry fee, but the prize payout was kind of insane, so that's where the money went.
Yeah.
Of course, the money also went to Randy's crime, but that's another
crime.
Crime.
I kind of miss picking on Randy.
I miss him too.
I remember asking Randy what kind of crime he was into, and his response was always, never been convicted. And that always struck me as terrifying. But anyway, so that's really, there's not much else to say about F&M, is there?
No, there isn't. It's pretty straightforward.
Because it's the same thing, except know the format and and know your expectations compared to what is happening.
Yeah, and know the format is kind of an even more important point, because with some changes to their policies that Wizards went through over the past couple of years, you can sanction pretty much any kind of event for an F&M.
Oh no, actually,
I don't think that's actually anything. Yeah, I don't think that's very widely utilized. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of places stick to some combination of standard, modern, and or draft, but some places might have commander events. Some places might have pauper events,
I know that Legacy at Atomic Empire was pretty big back in the day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, know what you're going into.
Some places, I'm sure you could probably do like a commander or brawl F&M if that's what the store supports. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, moving up the chain.
I get one last note about F&M.
Okay.
As far as the rules of the game, you should know how the game works regardless, but pre-release, it's a little more relaxed. Some people are going for their first tournament ever, might be learning the way things work. I literally had an opponent at a pre-release who got frustrated with me because I started to tap my mana, decided I wanted to do something else, and untapped my mana before I declared a spell or anything. And he said, I'll let it go this time. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you've already added that, man. I'm like, and he was trying to tell me that he knew that that's how it worked because of Magic Online. I'm like, even on Magic Online, there's an undo button.
Yeah, you control Z. Even I know that.
but so the point is not to make this guy sound like a jerk. He literally just thought that's the way it worked. As we're going up through these, there's going to be more and more onus, more and more burden on you as the player to have a sense of how the rules work. You still call a judge, absolutely, because there will always be, quirky interactions. But as far as just the general way that the game works, especially in a tournament format, you're going to be more and more responsible for it. The REL, or rules enforcement level, is going to get more and more strict. So for FNM, not a big deal, but you probably want to make sure you understand. What would you say, Mike? What do you think that the basic understanding would have to be for FNM? Just
how to play the game, how the more basic common mechanics in the game interact with each other, and just know how to communicate with your opponent and keep track of where you are in the turn. FNMs and pre-releases are at, like Brian said, there are different levels of rules enforcement. REL is the rules enforcement level, and FNMs and pre-releases are done at regular REL, which is the lowest level. All of the Magic tournament rules and all that stuff are in effect, but there's no real penalty structure. I think Preleman said that the penalty structure for regular was basically either hugs or get out.
Speaking of criminals.
Yeah. Because, the judge will, if players end up with a problem, the judge will educate them, try to get the problem fixed as best they can, explain what's going on, and just remind them to play more carefully. If someone is just chronically messing up the same way and just does not get it, sometimes there will be warnings, or sometimes there will be game losses handed out at regular, but it's astonishingly rare. It's if someone just cannot stop screwing up. But otherwise, the only other thing that'll happen is if you are actually like cheating or showing like severe unsportsmanlike conduct, or aggressiveness or whatever, and they just need to tell you to leave.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure, again, for FNM, what your expectation is, especially is in terms of what you need to know. And knowing is something, battle, something.
Relatively important.
Yes. So what would we say? So what would we say the next level up would be? Would that be PPTQ?
Yeah.
There's a million
Sure,
different ways. There's leagues and other things, but in the tournament structure, the next level, we might say we're not going to go through like game day and draft weekend and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but
those are basically different types of FNM that aren't on Friday.
Yeah. But the preliminary Pro Tour qualifier, back in my day when I was a youngin', we only had ourselves a PTQ. There's none of that preliminary nonsense.
Yeah, that's what I top aided. Was PTQ.
That is what he top aided. But now, of course, it's the preliminary Pro Tour qualifier that feeds into the regional Pro Tour qualifier. And a lot of the same rules apply in terms of know where you're going. Food might be more important. I mean, food is always important, but
food.
But because you're gonna possibly have even less chance to just wander about and try and figure things out as you go along. In theory, if you're going to a PPTQ, you're going to win. That as Chewy so eloquently put when we got started, you're probably not going to lose. But if you're going to a PPTQ, your level of involvement in the game is
hang on. You're probably not going with the intent to lose, because you're probably going to lose. But
I mean, 50 people walk into a room. The 50 best players in the world walk into a room. Eventually, 49 of them are going to lose. Eventually.
Or if the top 24 of them do, and 23 of them play, and then one gets disqualified. So now the top 22 players in the world. This is a Worlds joke.
Okay.
There was a DQ at Worlds. Isn't that terrible?
There was a DQ. All right, I'll ask you about that later. I'll ask about it later. Because I don't want to get... But basically, we're assuming at this point you may not be the most competitive person in the world. That's fine. Nobody says you have to be super cutthroat to go to a PPTQ. But your level of involvement with the game is probably a little higher than someone that only goes to FNM or only goes to pre-releases. unless there's just, oh wow, I've got to do this format or whatever, you're probably a little more invested. The rules enforcement level is higher. What's the rules enforcement level for PPTQ?
Competitive.
And the name says it right there. So you're gonna be on probably a tighter schedule, and you're gonna be under a little more pressure. So have a good sense of where the food is, because you're gonna get hungry. PPTQs, you're probably looking at a longer time commitment, so that's important. Know the rules as well as you can. Know the format as well as you can. Make sure you really know which format you're going to. Really, really. And you definitely need to make sure that you've got an appropriate way to keep track of your life total. A lot of things we've already talked about, but I'd say more importantly, because at a pre-release, you don't have a notepad. Well, see if you can't get some from someone else. But you're gonna be in a bad place if you're going to a PPTQ and you're lacking something like that. You might still be able to get one from the store, but be as prepared as you possibly can with basic materials.
At a competitive rules enforcement level event, you're also going to need to register your deck. If it's sealed, you'll just do that while you're building it. If it's constructed, you either need to remember to fill out one at the site, and have it ready for the judge to pick up before round 1 starts, or bring one with you that's already filled out. And don't just wing it.
Yeah.
Even if you think you know your deck backwards and forwards and could just write it down without looking, don't actually do that. You should check and make sure, because there are a lot of just simple boneheaded mistakes that are possible to make that might accidentally hit you with a game loss later if you get deck checked and your deck list isn't right.
You write down everything else, and you fail to note how many forests are in your deck, and the judge can look at it and they can say they have 40 other cards. This must be 24. They wrote the word forest. They didn't write how many. Gentlemen, pop quiz. How many game losses are awarded at these types of events for deck construction problem?
Like a gazillion.
Yeah, more than the judges would like to get.
More, and that's exactly. I wish Clues was here. Basically a non-zero number, and it's so easy to avoid. Now, anyone can make a mistake, but it's really so easy to avoid. And as Mike said, don't just assume, I've been playing this deck left and right. I know every single card in it, and then turns out you just left out the 4 Llanowar Elves, because of course the deck has Llanowar Elves, and if they look at your deck, it has Llanowar Elves, but you left it out. That's a deck registration error, and you're probably looking at a game loss.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a probably.
I'm as I'm not a judge, I'm only speaking in absolute terms.
Fair enough.
So, but that would be my expectation. Yeah. And this goes for sealed as well. While Mike did say you'll just fill it out there, and that's true. You don't have to really know ahead of time, because you can't know ahead of time. There are always deck construction and deck registration errors at sealed PPTQs and sealed GPs, because you miss putting down a card that you opened, or you missed checking off the number of cards that you're actually playing with to make your deck, because that's a 2-step process. You register the cards that you opened, and then probably pass them to someone else, maybe not, and you register what cards you're actually playing with. You're not allowed to just make a new deck every round. So, double check that stuff, boy.
There was a sealed GP in Atlanta that we went to, where this guy who was sitting kind of across from me just could not get it right. Like, he was trying to give off this vibe like he was he was a cool player who knew what he was doing and everything like that. But oh man, he just kept screwing it up. I was surprised he hadn't fallen out of his chair by the time we were finally done. Poor guy.
Whoa, that was creepy.
Yes, it was. No, Mike.
Dang it, Mike.
Yeah.
JD Phoenix put a good tip in the chat. If you're able to, go ahead and type out your deck list into the form if you can get one beforehand, so that it's easy to read and easy to check.
Oh God, yes.
I like to do that as well. I don't necessarily always type it out, but I usually write it out because first of all, I've got it on hand, and it means I don't have to, while the event is getting ready to start, I don't have to take my deck out and sort it, because then I have to be extra careful to try and shuffle it up as much as possible after I've sorted it, if I've already got it written out. And B, for selfish purposes, if I really like how the deck worked, I've got this copy, and I can later go, hey guys, this is the deck I took. I think it worked really well. And they're like, what'd you play? And I'm like, here you go. And I pull it out. The deck list. I pull out the deck list. I show it. So,
Excuse me while I whip this out.
yeah. So.
All right.
And the third reason I like to do that is it stops me from making last minute changes, which almost never work out.
5 minutes before you walk in. Okay. I'm going to swap out these two mainboard piece that's incredibly important to the deck for these two mainboard sideboard cards.
Yes. Because there's a 0.5% chance that I'll run into that one deck. And man, I want to crush them in game one.
Yeah. And don't put those leftover cards in your deck box, because those will also cause a problem when you're being deck checked.
Yep, there's that. In my case, it's more likely that I'm taking out some essential part of the deck and putting in a nifty, what I would call a Brian card. If we've got Mike decks, there's also Brian cards, which are nifty little, cute cards that they're so awesome when they work, and they do nothing 90% of the time. And instead, I'm basically taking out like the Heart of Kieran's for this stuff, like the stuff that actually works for this one that's gonna be really cool when it works, and it's not gonna work. So that's much more likely what I'm gonna do. So if I've actually got the deck list together, I'm much less likely to make a change. So PPTQs, be prepared for the higher rules enforcement level. This kind of goes toward playing versus prep, but don't be afraid to call a judge. That's what they're there for, and they'll tell you that. And yet people still feel like, well, I don't want to be a jerk. No, call the judge if you've got a question. And know the format and have the stuff you need, and don't mess up registration.
Yeah, that's all very important.
Yeah. Another piece of general advice that just came to mind, in like a couple of sideways steps from something that someone brought up in chat. If you already have your deck sleeved, if you're not getting new sleeves on site or whatever, if you already have your deck sleeved when you take it there, go ahead and check them just to make sure.
Yep.
Because this is something that both Brian and I have had to deal with before, and has tripped us up. Brian had to re-sleeve his deck in the middle of a sealed PTQ we were at in Asheville, because some of his sweet nickel bolas sleeves were kind of coming apart at the edges.
Yep.
And then I almost got disqualified from a charity tournament that Clues was helping to run, because my sleeves were so jacked up. But when they saw that there was no discernible pattern and that I was just an idiot, they gave me a game loss instead of kicking me out.
I went to a state championship tournament years ago, and I had exactly 75 sleeves, which was a mistake. And in the middle of getting literally between games 2 and 3 of round 3, my opponent noticed that one of the sleeves was torn. I'm like, okay, great, I'll go replace it. Oh darn. And we had to call a judge over, and the judge had to let me go buy new sleeves and re-sleeve the deck. And it was awkward, and they made, nobody had any problems with it. My opponent was very cool with it, and we got a time extension, but you really shouldn't have to worry about that. So
the solution
check
for that
the sleeves
should have been
have extra sleeve. Check the sleeves and make sure that they're good, and make sure that there's not going to be a problem with them being marked. and make sure that they are, good quality, and then have extra. What were you gonna say, Mike?
You were given the wrong solution for that.
Right?
The solution for that should have been take a sleeve from the sideboard and just if you need to bring in that sideboard card, just switch the sleeve with whatever you're taking out.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like, that sounds like a really roundabout, nonsensical way to handle something that's really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, not being a rules advisor or a judge, that was what I was told. Keep in mind, this event also took place shortly after Shards of Alara came out, because I remember exactly what deck I was playing.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know if that would have been the standard then as well. That still makes sense.
No, the policy wasn't any different. They just didn't make the right call on the fix.
Okay. Well, there we go. But again, not throwing the judge or anybody under the bus.
So don't be afraid to call a judge. Don't be afraid to appeal if the answer you get from the judge doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Just be aware you can't really appeal.
Because there are still people out there. There are judges out there learning, just like you and me are out there learning while we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they've had a long day and haven't had enough to eat and haven't had enough water, and they make a mistake too. So if it just seems weird, don't be afraid to appeal.
There you go.
All right.
Unless Brian is misremembering and he actually only had 60 cards.
And
60 sleeves, maybe.
I mean, sleeves, yeah.
Perhaps I didn't have the sideboard sleeve. We are talking about a set that came out. I'm not even doing that math, but it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
That is entirely possible as well. So I don't want to make it sound like the judge made a bad call. That was my recollection of it, and nobody got really upset over it. So I still think it's a good lesson to check your sleeves and have extras if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move up to a big open event, GPs, the Star City Open, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Because those two, for the purposes of this conversation, are basically interchangeable.
These are the highest, largest tournaments that a player can just walk into without an invite. So don't let the size of it scare you. Anyone can go, and if it's your first tournament, I don't know that it's advisable, but if you start playing, you feel like you know the rules pretty well, and you love Standard a whole lot, and you've got a sweet deck, and the next tournament happens to be next weekend at a GP that is 2 blocks from your house, knock yourself out. That being said, if you have a chance to play FNM or anything else first, probably be a good idea to just warm up to the idea of playing.
Okay, let's assume someone didn't just start playing Magic and wants to go to a GP. All right, just bypass all of that.
Gotcha. After my 5-minute disclaimer, yes.
Yeah, I just realized, I'm like, really, Brian? Okay.
We said at the beginning, we were setting out with the thought that maybe this was for people that, but yes.
So, the first thing to know about these events is that they are big.
They are huge.
So the know when, where, and all of that is infinitely more important.
Yes.
Especially if you're traveling. This is all... It's insanely rare and probably a really bad idea to decide Friday night, I'm going to go to the GP in the morning and try to go.
Probably. Again, unless you live 2 blocks away. And if that's the case, you're incredibly lucky.
And also for GPs, you can't do that anymore. Because you can't register day of anymore.
That's right.
You have to pre-register for a GP. That's all very simple. You can go to the Wizards website and type it in, and eventually you will find... Okay, maybe not. Go to Google, type it in. Type in Grand Prix, name of city. Let's see, what's one that just had? Grand Prix Richmond, 2018, and hit search, and you will find the registration page or the Channel Fireball events fact sheet or something. But you have to pre-register these days. You can't show up on Saturday morning and be like, sign me up, because they'll be like, no.
Yes.
So you need to know when and where, and you need to know...
because of the size of these tournaments and the venues are larger, again, not just know where it is, but once you get there, figure out where you're going, because almost certainly it's going to be an Apex C on wing 32. Get a sense of where you're going, and don't give yourself 5 minutes to get there. Great, I pulled up, I've got 2 minutes, and then you walk in and you're like, oh, it's on the other side of the building.
Yeah. Which is in the next county over, it feels. So.
Yeah, so sometimes it does. So,
but yeah,
food,
show up early.
Yeah. Show up early.
This is massively important. Like Brian said, don't get there at the last minute. If you're traveling to this event, because GPs and SCG events are 2-day events, if you're going to play in the main event, that is, they're 2-day events, go with the expectation that you might make day 2, or go to make a weekend of it.
Yes.
Like if you're playing in the main event, you don't want to make it to day 2 and go, I didn't think I'd make it this far. I don't have a hotel room. I'm screwed. Like, don't do that.
Hi.
What?
Hi.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
First GP I ever went to was
At that
GP
gate crash.
Charlotte. Gate crash. I thought that's what you were.
But you had the room with us.
Yeah, you let me.
He didn't plan on it.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about that.
We went in. I'm telling you, I love sealed GPs. I went in. My pool, to this day, I remember my pool was solid. Did not have any super bombs, except there was an angel that at the beginning of every combat you could pick a keyword and all your stuff had it. And that was good, but it was just like every round I was on the ball. And that was actually kind of borderline miserable that night, because not only did I not have a hotel room, so Chewy was nice enough to let me stay in their room, I had to call Carrie and say, hey, guess what? I'm not coming home tonight. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I made day 2. But that one in particular was rough, because with the reporting system they had then.
Wait, was this GP huge?
This was GP huge.
Oh, right. Okay, now it's coming together.
It went
where they had to steal tables from vendors and such and such.
It went so long that literally at the end of the day, because they needed to close the site, if you were X and 2, you had to come back and play one more round on Sunday morning, and then anyone that lost that round did not technically make day 2. So they had to, they didn't have to leave. They weren't kicked out, but they weren't in the main event anymore.
Those people did get like a free entry to the big event that was going on that day, because I talk a lot of smack about Star City, but they are a hell of a tournament organizer.
Yeah, they take care of the players.
Yeah. But so I went and I thankfully did win that next round. I felt bad for my opponent. He was like, nah, man, it's cool. So I made it to the second part of that. And so I really thought you were using me as an example, but don't go and not be able to.
Yeah, I had forgotten that you weren't planning on it, dude. That completely threw me.
Here's what I would say about GPs in terms of planning. I mentioned before, if you're going to F&M, maybe see if somebody you know is going. The number of people going with, basically, who are you partying up with, I guess, is much more important for a GP. There's a couple of reasons why. One is if I'm going by myself and I do not do well at day 1, and I don't make day 2, I'm probably not going to, unless I have specifically taken the weekend and this is what I was going to do, and it's impossible for me to get home that day. And I'm not a jet setter. I'm not one that's traveling to anywhere that I can't feasibly drive home from. I'm probably not coming back for day 2 just to do side events and things like that. However, if I'm going with Mike and there's a decent chance that one of us is going to make day 2, we're not just going to bail and leave the other one there. We're going to have a hotel. We're going to have, a spot to go. So I'm thinking I'm going to be doing side events and things on day 2. If he makes it, probably from his perspective, vice versa. And there are a ton of side events at GPs, and some of them are super fun. And there's drafts going on. There's usually commander pods. I'm sure there's brawl pods now. I haven't been to a GP since brawl really took off. But there's a million things for you to do. There's a prize wall that's pretty cool. And so there are, in terms of prep, aside from, what deck you're going to play and all that sort of stuff, there's information available about the tournament before you go, where all this information should be available. Look it up. See what's going on. See what you think you want to do. See what the prices are, because, hey, guess what? This is not a charity event. Well, it might be a charity event, but this is not free. So everything is going to cost something. GPs are
huge and ridiculous.
Huge and ridiculous and expensive. And you need to know your budget. So
okay, we're straying already.
Yeah, well, I'm here, so
that's true. Yeah. So back to actually playing in the main event. Right. Are we done with that? Everything that goes with a PPTQ goes for this too.
Yeah.
And everything about traveling to an event, like I said, having a place to stay and all that is super important. Mm-hmm. Knowing where the food is, like we said, in Charlotte, there are food places inside the convention center just right upstairs. In Vegas, I went to the first GP Vegas. There were like 4 or 5 concession stands scattered throughout the place. In various other places, there are or aren't food nearby, and you need to know these things. Ask someone, hey, hit up Twitter. Hey, has anyone been to this place for a Magic event? Where's nearby food? Something like that.
Ooh, Twitter does bring up one extra point. Not specifically about food, but about the main event. Pairings. Pairings are a lot less difficult to manage at the local store level, because it's usually the store owner going, pairings for round 2 are now up. And there's like 2 locations, one at the front of the store, one at the back of the store, the counter, or wherever. Just check with the store owner. Pairings at a GP are, how would you describe them?
Massive.
Yeah, there's multiple boards that they can be put up just to give people multiple places to go look.
Sometimes they're divvied up, especially if there's a lot of players there, by last name. So one spot might be A through C, then D through whatever. You get it. But you're not going to necessarily have every pairing at every single one of these boards. So it's important that you find where they are and get to them. I don't know about Channel Fireball. I know Star City also does their pairings online. So you can go onto the website real quick and say, okay, cool, I'm at this table. This is my opponent. Great. Go. But make sure you know where you can look that up.
They used to have a separate Twitter account called SCG Pairings that you could just pull up, and every round they'd tweet out a link. That Twitter account is dead now, but I'm assuming that they still put, and surely Channel Fireball does this too, because it makes so much sense. But I haven't been to a Channel Fireball event, so I can't tell you. But
yeah,
but there's a way to find this out, even if it's when you're done with your round. Just locate where your board is and go hover somewhere nearby, because they're all gonna be easily obviously labeled, usually by last name alphabetical. Here's A through B, here's C through F, whatever.
Right. But you don't want to be looking for them in a panic as the next round is getting ready to start. So
just find that. They won't move it, so find that and you'll be good.
Yep.
Also, wander around and get a feel for where the tables are, because if you see your table number is 483, you're gonna go, all right, what is that? That doesn't tell me anything. So
I'm in the 2000s.
Just wander around and get a feel for the table numbers, because they're everywhere, and some of them get pretty large.
I think if we have tried to convey anything in this section, it is a size of scale. And GPs can be a ton of fun. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, they're too big for me, but they're huge.
Oh yeah,
And
dude.
that
I
just
played in the same one that Brian's talking about. I don't know if it was my first GP. I can't remember. But it was one of my first GPs. Was the biggest GP that had ever happened at the time.
Yeah.
So.
And you played in another biggest one ever too, maybe even a third one.
No, I went to those, but I didn't play in them.
Oh, you didn't enter the main event in Vegas?
I guess I did. Yeah, I was playing in the main event in Vegas. So then I went to the Prereleases and Series biggest single event ever. Soon thereafter, and also was at the biggest modern GP at the time in Richmond, and then we were at the biggest legacy GP at the time in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right.
I was making a point to hit all the biggest tournaments ever at the time. So, but I mean, I'm also a people person. If you don't like people, maybe be prepared to not have a great time at GPs. Just be aware. I'd recommend like a Star City event because instead of the thousands, you're only dealing with hundreds for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, the table layouts, know where your pairings are going to be, or find out where they're going to be online, that sort of thing. It's all stuff that, looking back, well, no kidding, duh. Of course you're going to want to know where it is. But at the time, you get there, you're having fun, you're wandering around, you're checking stuff out. And you might just, oh, crap, I need to know, oh, son of a,
Yeah. Yep. A
But
lot of
I
what
think-
we said has been in the hope that once you hear it and you're like, well, yeah, but then you're there and you go, well, they said to do whatever, or it makes you think for even a second about this. Once you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
But this is all stuff you really don't want to have go wrong. So
that I think that pretty much covers the main event, right?
I think so. They're also competitive REL, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't think day 2 of a GP switches to professional. I think top 8 does.
Okay.
Switches to professional enforcement.
Oh,
Okay.
Derpatech Go makes a good point in the chat. He says if you can't find the pairings or your table, ask a judge. Yes.
Yes.
Always ask a judge for anything. That's what they're there for. If you can't find the bathroom, hey, judge, where's the bathroom? Like, that's what they're there for. Anything involving the tournament or you surviving the tournament, they're going to help you out. Hey, is there any food upstairs? Whatever. They might not know that, but...
They may not be able to help you pick out a floral arrangement for your wedding. Maybe. But...
depending on the judge.
Yes.
So, as Brian was saying earlier, there's a lot of other stuff going on at a GP.
Lots.
There are... So, at the last GP Charlotte, not GP Huge, but the last one, GP Dumpster Fire.
Yeah.
Because Walter, the tournament software, is a bit of a moron.
It was still kind of new and it had a serious problem.
I mean, you can't blame it on being new. It's still kind of crap. But at GP Dumpster Fire, there was an infinite badge for side events you could get for some massive amount of money that just gave you the ability to play in all of this other stuff. And several of my buddies, like from up north, Salsky and Billy, and it's Billy's birthday. Happy birthday, Billy. I don't think Billy still listens to the show, but still. Those guys came so they could get the infinite badge and just hit all the side events, collect all their stuff. Like, that was it. There's always, like, draft and 8-man queues firing. At most GPs that I've been to, there's always a list to go sign up for an 8-person whatever draft, an 8-person modern, an 8-person standard, whatever. And as soon as they get 8 people, it fires and they run off somewhere and you play. And those are just like, those fire when they hit 8 people, one fires and it goes up. You remember the number at GP Huge, Charlotte? Because I asked.
It was a lot.
I asked somebody, like, did they just announce draft pod number like 8,000,006? Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a thing you can do. There are the actual side events that are scheduled. At 2:00 they're having a two-headed giant, whatever. Whatever. All of this will, in theory, be on the Channel Fireball events website.
Yeah, and for the scheduled ones, if you want to do more of them, consider what the start and end times of each one will probably be, and whether it's actually possible to do two that might be too close to each other on the schedule.
True.
I know some people have gotten messed up with that.
Yeah, double queuing is frowned upon. So, also, most of these have artists and alterists and stuff like that are there. Like, for instance, Mike always digs going to have artists sign stuff. But, depending on the artist, there will almost certainly be a line. So now you have that you have to deal with. And this is also where not having 4 giant bags of crap to carry comes in handy.
Yep.
Right, Mike?
Right. I feel great now that I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I remember walking past, oh God, was it Nielsen's line? Somebody's line.
Yeah.
Where Mike was standing there holding his giant ass bag and just looking miserable. You doing all right, buddy? You're like, yeah, okay, man.
That might have been at GP Huge because I tried to be in that line twice and it just didn't work. The first time I was like, yeah, there's time to get it up to the front, and it's like round 1. Oh, I guess I should go to round 1. And then on day 2, I got in the line at some point, and it wasn't first thing in the morning. Like I had gotten up and gotten some breakfast and gone to church first, and then came back and went to stand in the line. And in like 15 minutes, I moved from here to here. You can't see my hands, but they're not very far apart. And I was like, no, it's going to take me 7 hours to get to the front of the line, and we're not going to be here that long, so I'm going to go hang out with you and Brian instead.
Yeah. That's another thing. So prepare for that. If it's a huge popular artist, maybe try to get there early. And if it's not, you could probably just, drop by sometime.
Yeah.
Like in Jersey, you didn't have to stand in line very long to see crap. Whoever was there in Jersey.
I didn't have to wait very long to see Jeff Menges. I didn't have to wait all that long to see Christopher Rush. I was able to go over there at a good time, I guess. I didn't have to wait very long to see Pete Venters in Orlando because I think, if I remember correctly, Brian, I went over there to see him like Friday evening or something like that when there still weren't very many people around. I don't remember.
Think so.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember. I think so.
Yeah, timing is everything with some of those. And for the super big names like, Therese Nielsen, John Avon, et cetera, they might only have scheduled times that the line will be open and that they'll be out there.
Yeah. So be aware of that sort of thing. Hiccup. Also, hey, this is a thing I've talked about before. If you are not going for the main event and you have a buddy that is, or you don't make day 2 and you have a buddy that does, or you drop early because you suck and you have a buddy that's still playing, keep an eye on them. Because this is a thing that I've said a lot, is you have a responsibility to your fellow gamer. If they're doing well, you really need to, help them out. Hey, are you getting hungry? I'll go grab you something and bring it back to you after your round. That sort of thing. Because that's a thing. Sometimes rounds go long. This is a joke we make on Monday Night Magic all the time. The guy playing aggro, well, clearly he likes to eat lunch. And the people playing control clearly don't need to eat because they're not human. So that could be that they have a buddy who's going to get them food and they don't have to worry about it. So keep an eye on your friends that are still playing, if you're not, and help them out. Hey, you need something to drink? Hey, you want lunch? I'll go get it. Something like that. Also, if there are just other friends there that you know, and you're not playing and they all are, just check them out. I was reminded just recently of at one of the GP Charlottes, I think, I offered to go get food for a knee. I'd completely forgotten about this. She brought it up not long ago on Twitter, that at GP Charlotte I went to get her some Bojangles and brought it back to her because her rounds were going long and she was starving to death. I'm like, well, I'll go get it for you. Just stuff like, be a good GP person. Help out your fellow gamer. Okay? Okay. So what else? Like, be aware of side events that you want to do and other things going on that you want to do.
If you intend to get prints and other things from the artists, if you intend to get things from the prize wall, make sure there are things that you can transport.
Yes.
I feel like I say this a lot, but it sounds basic. Why would I buy something I can't get home? Well, when you're looking at that life-size model of Baron Singer and you're like, I gotta have it. Sure. Just, are you going to take it home strapped to the roof, like the Griswolds? Because that's kind of cool, but, and I'm being a little silly here, but really, if you've got one bag and you want to buy a print or something, make sure you got somewhere to put it. It happens.
Yeah. Especially if it's like something bigger.
Yeah.
Like you buy it and you're like, dude, look what I got. Sweet, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to put it up right now. And you look around at your stuff and you're like,
oh.
Hey, can you run this to the car? Like,
yeah.
When we were going home from Orlando, I had to use a little bit of space in Brian and Carrie's suitcase because I just accumulated slightly too many extra things between the GP and Disney World.
Oh, God, yeah. If you're flying especially, you got to keep stuff like that in mind.
Mm.
I've never... Well, okay, that's a lie. I flew to one, but I was flown to one. But usually I'm just thinking of driving places and carrying it around all day. But yeah, being able to get it back home is super important. So, yeah. And again, this is all stuff that has happened. Obviously, we have anecdotes for all of these.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just trying to save you some hassle.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like almost anything I would say at this point is just reiteration of things we've already said. Obviously time is a big commitment when it comes to GPs, especially if you are intending to make a weekend of it. But and I've already alluded to the fact that they are not necessarily cheap, but hopefully if you've taken while we have gone into all this, I want to reiterate something that Chewy did say earlier. We are not trying to point all this information at you like a giant fire hose and go, know all this, and if you don't feel like you know all this, you're not allowed to go to a tournament. Despite what you may think and what you think tournament Magic players are like, most people, in my experience, most people are really fun-loving, decent people at every competitive level. They're a joy to be around. They're a joy to play with. You're having a good time when you're even having fun losing. That's a good thing. And don't feel like you can't go to a tournament because you haven't had enough experience or because you don't think you'll do well or anything like that. No one says you have to go, but if you're thinking you want to go, give it a shot. Absolutely. Hopefully you'll have a great time, meet a lot of new people, and have some great experience. These are just things we're trying to tell you to make it a little easier for you. That's all.
Yeah, I've never really been a big competitive Magic player ever. And my first GP I just remembered was actually the one Charleston that they sent Jack and I down to. and that was a whole lot of fun for entirely other reasons. But like the first GP that I went to and played in, I think was GP Huge in Charlotte. And ever since those two, I have just loved going to big Magic events. Most of the time, I'm working. I'm walking around with my digital recorder and doing stuff. But I played in two of them, and I don't necessarily like. I didn't want to play in the main event in GP Vegas, but all the people who sent me demanded that I do so. Mm-hmm. And I scrubbed out. No big surprise, but that one I wanted to go to experience, not necessarily to play in, but it was Modern Masters, so I don't really regret playing in it. And I had a lot of fun in GP Charlotte, even though I didn't make day two. I didn't even get close to day two, I don't think. I think Mike got close.
I started out 5-0 and then cratered the rest of the way.
Which is what I mean, yeah. And then Brian, I obviously did make day two that weekend, but like, I don't wish I hadn't gone, you know? I loved it. I had a blast at every GP I've ever been to. And again, I'm not a tournament player. I just love meeting people and seeing everybody. Because there were, when I was going to GPs on a semi-regular basis back then, there were people that I only saw at GPs. Mm. And it was awesome. Because I looked forward to going to a GP and seeing those people. And that's really trippy now that I think about it. And I saw some of them at the last GP Charlotte. They were like, I haven't seen you in forever. I'm like, I don't ever leave the house. But I got to see him again. So I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to go, just go. Like, even if you're not playing, just go to experience it. Because it's fun. Unless, you know, you really, really can't handle large crowds of people, in which case, maybe not. But
yeah.
But outside of that, yeah. How about you, Mike? What you got for that last big thing?
The last big thing. Gosh, just like for GPs or in general, or what? It's the last big thing.
Well, like Brian did the, you know, we're not trying to tell you that you have to know all this, and I was like, yeah, go, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're right. It's possible to go and try to do some winning with a semi-serious deck. That's just how I play Magic. But another thing about expectations, don't go in with the expectation that it's definitely going to work, because it won't.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with one another.
Yep.
And if you have that in the back of your mind, you know, to help keep you from getting disappointed, you're going to have fun. That's going to be good and worthwhile. The expectations count for a lot. The expectations and the attitude you go in with, and the goal you have, the realistic goal you have for the event you're in, will matter a whole lot in terms of your enjoyment level and your general experience. And don't carry a giant ass bag around. It took me way too long to learn that lesson. I am legitimately embarrassed by how late in my life I finally learned that lesson.
What always bothered me the most about this was that he would complain about it, and we'd go, so don't do it.
I try not to complain too much.
Well, no, but you would say, man, I hated carrying this big ass. I'm like, so why do you have it? And you're like, I don't know. And then you'd have it the next time. And I'm like,
Because it's a habit, and I do stuff like that.
But anyway. So hopefully, something that we have told you here tonight on this episode of the Mana Pool, number 527, is something that makes you go, oh, and hopefully will push you towards or away from, with new information, going to or not going to an event of some sort. Like if you're constantly an F&M player, then going to a PPTQ is not much of a difference. Not really.
Nah.
If, you've only ever played at a local game store and you haven't gone to a GP for whatever reason, this is... Hopefully it is a big step, and hopefully this will be set you at ease slightly, or, make you think of some things that, I hadn't thought of that, because that stuff you need to know, because goodness knows we don't want you to go to your first GP, have a miserable time, and swear them off. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. That would be bad. And if you've never been to a pre-release, and if there's one anywhere near you, you owe it to yourself. Give it a shot.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, pre-releases were the only events I went to for the longest time. I mean, we went to an F&M a couple times, but as we've spoken about in the past, some of the spikier elements at that particular store all those years ago sort of turned me off. But that's me personally. Like, I don't think they were jerks looking back. Okay, a couple of them were, but... But pre-release, and back in the day, this would have been an entirely different pre-release, because an entirely different episode, because pre-releases were huge regional events. But that's not the case anymore. They're much more accessible and easier to deal with these days, I think. As much as I miss the big regional pre-releases, it probably is for the best that they are the way they are now.
Yeah.
Well, all right then. Shall we final thoughts and wrap it up then, gents?
Sounds good. So for my final thought, I'll take the obvious route for the first part and just say, looking forward to the pre-release. Really sitting here thinking I might try and go Boros with my seeded pack, but sometimes you pick a guild for your seed pack and you get 5 boosters that push you in another direction. That's fine. But I'm really looking forward to doing that. On a non-magic final thought, I've been checking out, those that listen know that every now and then I check out a new mobile game and report back whether I like it or not. And inevitably, even if I enjoy it, I usually don't have time for it. Pretty much the only 2 I've been keeping up with have been Kingdom Hearts Union Cross and Final Fantasy Brave X. About 2 weeks ago, I got clued in, can't remember how, to Dragon Ball Legend. For those that are not familiar, there is an anime called Dragon Ball, and it's wildly successful Dragon Ball Z, following the exploits of young Son Goku. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, and also widely abridged. For those that don't know, episode 60, parts 1, 2, and 3 is now out for Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and it's awesome. So awesome. But anyway, and it might have actually been a link in one of those videos to a related video that taught me that, hey, this game is out here. Apparently it's been out for a little while, a couple months here, so it's not like brand new, but it's not like years old, at least in North Carolina. And it's a little different because it's something that's lacking from some of the other games that I play, at least in mobile games, is an actual PvP element. In Kingdom Hearts and in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, you can kind of set up teams or setups, and then you can try them against other people's setups, but you're not actually playing against them in real time. And in Dragon Ball Legends, you actually do have the opportunity to play against other people, many of whom at this point are much higher level than me and kick my butt. But I'm getting a little better at it. I have obviously free to play, and just from doing some summons and polls, I've got a decent roster, I think, and you can fly through the story mode fairly quickly and get a lot of the in-game currency. So that's pretty cool. A couple things I think are a little odd. characters are basically one of 5 colors, and it's like a rock paper scissors thing, except there's 2 more things in there. So rock paper scissors.
What is it?
Rock.
Lizard Spock, I think is the 5 one.
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. Yeah.
I had never heard of that. I will try and remember that. But a lot of the characters are just alternate versions of the same character. So there's gonna be like a blue Goku and a green Goku and all that. And I guess if you've been playing since the beginning, you can keep them all straight. And for me, it's, these are the ones I have. I'm starting to see some of the ones I don't have and recognize them. And they all have different outfits. So you might go, oh, okay, this one he's super, this one he's not, this one is wearing this or whatever. But given the fact that they look very, very similar, it can get a little confusing. I also don't really like the way that equipment works in this game, and I'm not going to go into that because that would be its own discussion. But that being said, it seems fairly fun. I'll probably give it a go for a little while yet. Everybody and their mother, from what I can tell from videos I've watched and look into a little bit, is trying to pull on this Gohan Super Saiyan 2 banner that's going on right now, and apparently the drop rate is really low, so people are like, but there's always that sort of fun with these gacha games where there's something that everybody wants. And so again, that's Dragon Ball Legends. Go check it out if you want, and let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you've been playing and you're like, oh, how have you not heard about this? There you go.
All right, then. So, Dirk's in Disney World. Mike? Damn it, Dirk.
Let's see. I am also excited about the pre-release. Let's see. In terms of a final thought, just to relate to people who weren't familiar with it when Chewy was talking about the big pre-releases, the way it used to be done. So it used to be that
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So the very first pre-release, there was only one of. The Ice Age pre-release, it was one event. It was somewhere in Canada. Can't remember right now. And I think Dave Humphreys won, and later he joined R&D. Anyway, but for a long time, the pre-releases were regional. Like there would be one in all of North Carolina. And it was usually in Durham. I think a couple times it was out in Rocky Mount. Or High Point. I know it was in High Point at least once. I can't remember if it actually was in Rocky Mount or if I'm just one time or if I'm just misremembering something. But it was usually in a place in Durham. And just hundreds of people would be there to play and just join up in flight. Eventually they started doing rotating flights that would just fire whenever they got enough people. But they used to run them in one single big tournament that would last until like midnight. After starting at like 10 o'clock that morning. But yeah, and it was fun to go out there because it was a big event. It only happened a few times a year. It was exciting. It was basically like a GP for casual players. And like Chewy said, you got to see people that you like only saw at those events because otherwise they just lived too far away to ever see in real life. And there would be people that you recognize from year to year. It's like, hey, it's that guy. And you'd say, hey, and you chat with them. And it was nice. Yeah, it was. I think that's a good characterization of it. It was, at the time, it was basically like a GP for casual players.
Yeah.
That's the feel that it had.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Or like a casual GP. Yeah.
And like you'd get to recognize the judges. Like that's how I met Millsy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we all remember Stinky Judge.
Yeah.
I never knew his name, but he was always not very good at what he did. And the tall guy with no facial hair, I can see him, but I can't remember his name, who was always like the head judge at one of these events.
Oh, I think I remember who you're talking about.
Like, was it Chris? Man, I don't know if I ever knew
his name was Chris. Yeah.
But he was always one of the head judges at these events, and I just recognized them, and knew who these people were. And here's a dumb question for you guys. Mm-hmm. This popped into my head a couple days ago. You know Jonathan Harvell?
Yes.
Did we go to school with him, or was he one of these GP people?
He was a GP person.
He was also I thought he was also in the SF Cube group at UNC Greensboro.
Was he?
Wasn't he?
I don't know. I
Was
need
he?
to actually ask him sometime when he's in the Discord channel, because
Mm-hmm.
I just know him. And I know his wife.
He was also at like Mickey and AJ's wedding, right?
Was he? Yes.
Wasn't he? He was taking photos. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I don't know if because I know
You
him
don't
as a
know
GP person.
You don't know where we met him first. Is what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay. You might very well have met him first at
At a regional pre-release. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because he even pointed out in the Discord server just recently that he's been going to pre-releases forever. In fact, he played against Brian at the Saviors of Kamigawa pre-release, and I'm like, wait,
It was the Betrayers pre-release, but yeah.
that... I was like,
No,
wait,
but-
was that a big deal, or were you also there from our college? Like, and it didn't occur to me to ask, but that's been running around in my head all day. Anyway,
Yeah, like I remember playing against people, like when I was in high school. I remember playing against people that later I recognized when I was in grad school.
yeah,
These people would come from all over.
Because at the time you didn't really have a choice.
Hmm.
I mean, you could choose not to go, but that's the plus and minus. I think sometimes I look back on, I'm like, that was really cool how everybody came together, but at the same time, if you're having to travel like 3 hours to get there for some people instead of going to your local game store, that that's a major thing. And what if you have to leave?
Yeah.
So I remember when they announced the changes and we went to the last of the big pre-releases, somebody came around to a table while we were just sitting around shooting the stuff, and they were like, hey, do you want to answer this this survey or whatever about the new changes? And in talking to us, they realized that while we would miss it, we were somewhat supportive of being able to go somewhere closer. And they never did give us the survey form. You remember that? They just kind of were like, oh, okay, and they kept walking.
I remember this conversation vaguely, but I don't remember the specifics.
That's basically all it was.
Yeah. I only have a very vague memory.
I think they were trying to say, hey, it was someone that had been in, with the judges for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and they were saying, have you heard about the new changes and all that? And we said yes, and they said, yeah, isn't it terrible that we're not going to be able to do this? And we're saying, well, we live a little distance away, and they said, oh, I kept walking instead of giving us the petition or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
so the feedback form. So it was a little like, we're not going to say what you want us to say, so you don't want to give it to us. It didn't strike me as diabolical, but a little like, hey.
Hacks. Judge.
We would have thrown off the results, you see.
Yeah.
We didn't get it.
Also that,
Clearly.
yeah. Anyway. So is that good for you guys?
That's good for
So-
me, but I've been done for a while. Is that good for you, Mike?
Yes.
Well, there you go then.
Word. Well, and my headset decides to revolt against me. Then I guess that just leaves me where I will talk about things. So over on the YouTube channel, we've got the Boomsday Project Puzzle Lab videos are going up again. Finally, I managed to get through the 4-hour hell that was
Mm-hmm.
the first Secret Lab video. Finally got through it completely, and it's up. Yay. And the second one's going up soon. I started editing the third one today, and again I had to stop because it was 2.5 hours of me being increasingly frustrated and staring at the screen and mumbling to myself. So I'm slowly cutting all that out. That one's going a lot faster than the 4-hour one did. So thank goodness. But so those two things are going up very soon. Videos from the next chapter of The Walking Dead and The Messenger will start going up on YouTube. And some more Hearthstone ranked games. I've got some Taunt Warrior, Quest Warrior, you know. Those are looking good. So that's over on youtube.com/themanapool, where all of this stuff goes up, including video versions of both podcasts. Huh?
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't do it as good as Dirk can. Dirk's the master at that one.
Over on twitch.tv/themanapool here lately, I have been streaming stuff. Like, I streamed some Eternal last night, because it's a lot of fun, it turns out. I streamed The Walking Dead, I streamed The Messenger, did some XCOM, Enemy Within, a couple weeks ago. These are all things that have been going on, more of which will be happening soon. I think, you know what, I think tomorrow night, if people are going to be around, because it's not worth doing the stream without chat, because chat gets involved, I think I might do more XCOM. Because you got to take the Twitch chat soldiers into battle to shoot the aliens in their stupid faces.
Mm-hmm.
I've still only lost one person, and it wasn't even a person from Twitch chat. It was a story character, so score.
Oh, good.
He got blown the hell up. I was like, I was wandering around this map trying to find the rest of the aliens, and eventually I realized they were in the laundromat. So I thought I'd be clever and just blow the back door of the laundromat away, or the back wall, and get them in there. And it was 3 mutons, these big gorilla-looking bastards with plasma guns. And I went, oh no, because it's the first time I'd run into mutons in this playthrough. And like, people were all out of position, and I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. And then they just straight murdered him. Like, there was no, he's down, can you stabilize him? No, he just died. I was like, oh my god. It was disconcerting.
Really makes you realize the frailty of life, doesn't it?
Dude, it does, because I had like just gotten him. It's like, I need a heavy. Oh, let's take Zhang in. He's not so bad. Well, now he dead. But yeah, as I get more characters, I'm naming them after people in the Twitch chat. We've got 2 mech soldiers now. We've got a handful of snipers, a handful of supports. Finally got a second assault, finally. So yeah, hell yeah. It's been a lot of fun. So that will probably happen sometime this weekend, if not tomorrow. But of course, you can find all that and the shows, Monday Night Magic and the Manapool live, on twitch.tv/themanapool. So what else? Because that's pretty much it for content notifications. So if you want to help support what I do with all of this insane amount of content creation, well, the best way to do that is over on... What was that? Hang on, I don't have the chat up. Oh, I should have expected this. Pinball Witch through 10 bits for live bits. Come listen live. I forgot what I was going to say. Yes, if you want to help support what I do, the most direct way to do that is on Patreon at patreon.com/themanapool, where you can become a lifeguard. All the lifeguards get an appropriate coloration in the Manapool Discord server. So the uncommon lifeguards are silver, the rare lifeguards are gold, the mythic lifeguards are the mythic, like, orange. I don't know what to call that color.
Hot orange.
Ooh, hot orange. And the Twitch subscribers are Twitch purple, or as they like to call themselves, time shifted. Huh? In the Discord server. So that's just one perk. Uncommon lifeguards get access to the Manapool and YouTube videos early. The rare lifeguards get the early stuff and access to the odds and ends, all the stuff recorded before and after both Monday Night Magic and the Manapool. where we talk about what's going to be on the show, personal lives, and all kinds of assorted other nonsense. For instance, there was an hour-long discussion about the whole Wizards of the Coast Amazon thing before the last Monday Night Magic. Before this episode of the Mana Pool, we got to tell Brian about Jerry T sitting out from Worlds. So that was fun, because I thought everybody knew by now. And
apparently I live in a hole. Not a hobbit hole, though.
Like a dirty hole.
Yeah, like a dirty hole. I do need to clean up. So.
And, like on the last Mana Pool Odds and Ends, which I think just went up today, actually, on the web on Patreon, Mike and I actually got fairly personal about, well, mostly me, it turns out, but still. Oh, and Mike got to tell us about that client at work. So yeah. So it all varies wildly, but it's all stuff that's behind the scenes, whatever nonsense. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's a rare lifeguard tier right there. And then the mythic lifeguards get all of that, the odds and ends, the early stuff, and you'll get the shout out on both podcasts and your name on the end slate for all of the YouTube videos that month. So to that end, I'd like to thank the following mythic lifeguards: Kim Ho, Andrew Hunt, Al, Lance Delicious, Team U, Hellas Are You, Connor Kennedy, John Morris, Jeff Spencer, Stuart Slaw, PJ McMullen, Bosco Brittain, Casey, Fayen Says, Danny Liao, Jason Doan, Cody Buckowing, Jake Jansons, Jason Kaus, Brian DeLucci, Stark Maximum, John Parker, Violet Moon, Dan Holm, Bartle, Mike Millerburn, and the Beast Father, Aaron Goodwine. Thank you all so very much for your mythic lifeguarding. I quite literally could not do this without you. Or without any of the rest of you lifeguards of various rarities. I appreciate you all. So with that, I do believe we're done. Is that everything? Then, of course, all the social media is the Mana Pool. Mainly Twitter and Facebook. Those two are the Mana Pool. Go find us there. And, of course, join the Discord server. The link is in the show notes. And come hang out. We talk about Magic and Hearthstone and now Eternal. There's a D&D channel. We talk about all kinds of other stuff. You can help me decide on what to play or stream and pitch ideas to everybody about stuff. We're just a big community. Come hang out. I had way too much food on, I guess that would have been Tuesday. Yeah, because I didn't stream. So I had a burrito, and then I had the chips, and I used the chips to finish my dips that I had. That I only had a little bit left, and then I didn't even eat all the chips, and I was dying. So I had way too much to eat. So I was like bloated and sad, and so that made me emotional. And I hopped on the Discord server and told everyone how much I loved them coming together to form this little community of a bunch of awesome people. Because this is really, I set this Discord server up as an experiment. I'm like, I wonder if anyone will ever bother to come do this. And we're sitting just shy of 100 people now. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to kick anyone out because they suck. But I'm sure I will in the future, and I look forward to it.
I just have to hope it isn't me.
Jury's still out. You're never actually in there, so it's probably fine.
Okay.
Because of your sleeves.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Can't actually. I'm imagining, that image, the guy pointing at his head. Can't get kicked out if you're never there.
So anyway. Yeah, Pinball Witch says, Chewie gets emotionally full on food like an emotional drunk. That's true, yeah. Seriously, I don't know what was up that night. I was very emotional after that massive amount of food. But anyway, so, shutting up now. This has been the Mana Pool number 527. Next episode, if everything goes properly, will be the stuff recorded live from the final pre-release at Lucky's Card Shop. Again. Yeah.
Yep.
Probably for real this time, which is very sad.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys will enjoy that, because there'll be 3 of us there, again, if all goes to plan. So it'll be great. So, thank you all so very much for listening, and go play some Magic.